Hey folks, it's Cliff Gray here. I'm back up in the States just in time for spring bear season, and I've got a gear video for you. I've got my old Bino harness. I've been using it for years. This simple harness and an old Alaska Guide Creations harness are the majority of what I've used for over a decade. And they've fulfilled the need, they've been awesome, but in the world of gear, there's been a bunch of innovation on Bino harnesses, and there's been enough technology shift that it's worth a look for me personally to check out the different options. And I came back up here to a pile of different types of harnesses. So today I'm starting that process of analyzing new Bino harnesses, but I wanted to do a video on what's actually in my harness for you. After guiding dozens of big game hunts myself and having a bunch of guides work for me, I think it's very important that you think about what goes in this harness. The reason being is that when you're up in the mountains, your Bino harness, this is really the only storage that you can assume is always going to be on you. People are way too dependent on their primary backpack. I've seen myself do it a dozen times. I've seen clients do it. I've seen my guides do it. We have important gear in that backpack, but when things change during the hunt, and these are usually unanticipated things like we wound an animal right at dark, end up tracking it into the wee hours, we end up crossing a river, little disruptive things like that. Usually what happens is we set our primary pack down and we go do that thing, and then we realize that now we're a couple miles away from that pack, or now it's dark and we can't find that primary pack anymore. So we have to depend on what's in our Bino harness. So I'll show you real quick what's in mine as I stick it in this new harness that I'm going to try out over the next couple weeks. On the outside, I have a lens cloth here. Okay, so I'll take that off. I just have it snapped on to the outside of the Bino harness. All this is just a micro cloth where I can wipe the lenses off, dust them off of my optics, my glasses, anything like that. I have a wind checker. Everybody should have this. That's an obvious need for all Western hunting. I keep an extra set of earplugs in the side of my Bino harness, either for me or for a hunter or friend that's hunting with me. I shoot a gun with a muzzle brake, and so do a whole lot of people. A lot of my clients in the last few years, they shoot a gun with a muzzle brake. It only takes one time to not have earplugs in with one of those muzzles going off near your head to affect your hearing for the rest of your life. So it's important to always have an extra set of earplugs, either for yourself or whoever is with you. But having said that, I always throw on wraparound set of earplugs the first thing I do in the morning when I get up to guide or go hunting myself. So these are backup earplugs here. All right, and then on this side, I have a little kindling. What this is right here is this is just my do-it-yourself fire starter. You can check it out on the channel. I've got a video where I go over how I make these with my kids. And I'm not bullshitting you. I have not been able to find a commercial fire starter that works better than these. And it's a fun little project to do with your kid. It takes probably 20 minutes total time, and you can basically make a lifetime supply of these fire starters as long as you got some dryer lint and a little wax. So go check that video out on the channel. I'll put a link up right here for you. I carry a way to start a fire. So this goes back to my original point, and that's you've got to have a way to start a fire between kindling and an actual ignition source in your Bino harness, okay? Again, for safety's sake, you know that this is the only thing you can depend on when you're in the field, all right? So you've got kindling and a good way to start a fire. This is just a Ferro Rod here. I've got it attached to the pack. I actually carry two different ways to ignite a fire. Inside here, I also have just a Bic lighter. So I've got two options there. On the outside here, on the side strap of my harness, I've got my ammo here. Packet here, this is just a little cheapo Charlie one that you can buy off of Amazon. Get rid of this bee. And a note on your extra ammo, this is along the theme. Don't keep your extra ammo in your primary pack or on your saddlebag on your horse or somewhere where you're gonna get distance from, right? You need this to be on you at all times. So I recommend either having this on your Bino harness like I do, and or having it on the buttstock of your rifle. You'll see in some of my rifle videos on the channel that I will carry ammo in a little pouch on the buttstock of my rifle. For some of my rifles that works really well. For others, I prefer to have it in this pouch, and that just has to do with how the stock fits my face. But there's two options there. The thing about both of those, in all the imaginable scenarios, you're gonna have that ammo with you. I cannot tell you how many times I've been in situations where a client got short on ammo. Contrary to what people want to think, and they kind of forget about wild scenarios that all too common happen when you get an animal wounded, you're chasing an animal, that sort of thing. You can go through a half dozen rounds really quickly, and you need to have another half dozen rounds with you. I think anytime you're hunting, you need to have somewhere between 10 and 15 rounds. I know that sounds like a ton. I can tell you from a huge data set between myself and my guide, folks that carry less than 10 rounds, there's several situations where that resulted resulted in a hunter or a guide killing an animal with a knife. Make sure you got your ammo on you. Bino harness is a great way to carry it. All right, so this next item I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail because it's probably the most important thing that you can keep on your harness, and I kind of have a little system with it, and that's my InReach. So this satellite communication device, I've got a video on it, you can go check it out. What it allows me to do is basically use my phone wherever I'm at, and I can text message via this. I just Bluetooth my phone to it, and then I can text just as if I was somewhere with cell coverage. So that's obviously important because communication is more likely to save you really than any of the other stuff I've talked about in this harness. So I always keep it on the harness, and this is how I do it. So these little InReaches, and there's other devices too, but they all kind of operate the same, is they just need to be somewhere in the vicinity so you can Bluetooth them to your phone. But I have found that the direction of the antenna makes a big difference. So what I do is I actually have this little chunk of Velcro here on the side of my Bino harness, and I take my InReach and I stick it to that. And this actually came with this InReach. On some of the models, you might have to buy it separately, but I find it pretty handy because I put the InReach there, and that keeps the antenna pointing up. And then just the OCD kind of part of me uses this carabiner just to click it on there. Surely if you were going through brush and stuff, you could pull it off that Velcro pretty easy. But I prefer this. You'll see a lot of guys who take these devices and they hang them on the lid like this. And that's annoying because now it's like weighing down your lid. Sometimes they'll just kind of randomly find some webbing and hook it like that. But this is always going to be bouncing around, particularly if you're drawing a bow, always picking up your binoculars. This thing's always going to be dropping down. And the other thing is you don't always have it oriented up. And what I do sometimes, if I'm in like a real tight canyon and I'm not getting good reception on this, I will take this off my harness just very briefly, and I have some Velcro on the top of my pack, and I stick this on that Velcro, again using the carabiner onto the pack, and I keep this antenna up, and then as I'm walking down the trail, that gives me much better satellite coverage, and my messages go out and come in much quicker. But I always remember the minute I put that pack down, I pull it off my main pack and put it back on my my Bino harness, just in case I end up setting my pack down, going chasing an elk or something like that. I don't get away from this. I always have it on my harness. Any paperwork I need, tags, licenses, that sort of thing, have it on you so you don't have your tag back in your pack that's 2 miles away, and now you're doing something illegal as you cut up a bull because you don't want to go back and get your tag. Another one that goes along with the theme is a knife, okay? Always have a knife with you. You're at least capable of field dressing the animals you're pursuing with. If you don't do that, eventually you will run into some situation where you've been chasing a wounded animal away from your pack. You find it in the dark. You want to get back to camp for a whole multitude of different reasons, but you need to at least field dress the animal and get it cooling down so you can come back and finish the process the next day. If you don't have a knife with you, you're not able to do that. So always make sure you have a knife that you can use for that in your Bino harness, all right? I typically have a pocket clip knife too, but I like to have just a Havalon here. In my mind, it's not the perfect field dressing knife, but it's capable of doing everything you need to do on an animal, and it's lightweight and doesn't take up a bunch of space, so I always carry one of those in my Bino harness. I carry extra batteries in here. I carry an extra range finding battery, either for my range finding binoculars or my side range finder if I'm using it. So I have my extra batteries in here. I have a lens pen in here to clean my optics off. That doesn't weigh anything, very minimal space. It's nice to be able to do that. The Bic lighter that I mentioned. And then of course I got my binos. These are EL ranges, and they're a fairly heavy range finding binocular. And this is a good time for me to mention something that's gonna come up in all these Bino harness videos and any content that I put out regarding Bino harnesses. I used to carry a ton on my chest in these harnesses because I figured, why not? I'm wearing a pack all the time. I've got to carry it anyways. I can kind of even it out, some on my chest, some on my back. Well, over the years of guiding, I've just beat up my body, and I've got some little back issues. And if I carry a lot of weight on my chest, those get exacerbated. So I've really thinned down what I carry in my harness, and that's why I'm very kind of streamlined in terms of exactly what I want in my Bino harness and what I don't want in my Bino harness. So just at random, I chose one of the harnesses to start off with here. This is the FHF. This is the new FOB model, and it's very modular. That's the first thing when I took it out of the package. It's got MOLLE attachments all over the place. But one thing that's cool that is significantly different than the harnesses that I used to use is it's got these kind of support mechanisms here that you can buy their little accessories, but they're solid, right? And I think that things like my ammo pouch are the weight's gonna distribute a whole lot better on these than it was on these straps here that don't give it any support. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. But I'll throw all this stuff in here and you'll see it's gonna still be fairly streamlined. These extra batteries, these are gonna cover anything that uses batteries that I have. So my primary headlamp, that uses AA, so I've got some extras in there. Small AAAs, I've got some stuff that uses them, so I just have a couple extras in here and handy. And I'm kind of getting tapped out here, so I think what I'm gonna do actually with this harness is I'm gonna add this accessory pocket right here. This is their nav pouch. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put this on one of these sides here and just use it for other stuff that I was putting in the front pocket of my other Bino harness. So now I've got some extra room with that. So I'm gonna go ahead and add something. This is actually kind of handy. Looks like I can stick a phone in there or something like that, but we'll go ahead and put some of this bigger stuff in here, my Havalon. And I forgot to mention, but this is important, I carry a few water purifying pills with me in here because I usually carry my SteriPen in my primary pack. So if I get desperate and I need to purify water, I can use these tablets. I put tape around them. This is Leuko tape. Work there. I'm actually gonna take the lens pen just because it's long and put it in this pocket. Separate little rangefinder setup here. I'll try that in the future. I'm not going to put that on right now, obviously, because I'm using my rangefinding binoculars. DIY fire starter, I'll put that in here. The reason that I put this in a plastic bag is that wax will melt, and it's just kind of annoying. It'll end up in the material of your Bino harness if you don't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ammo pouch on this side. So all I'm left with here is my wind checker. I want that to be accessible, and actually they sent me a little wind checker pouch. Looks like it'll just go right here perfectly. Stick that in there. All right, so there's the setup. Oh, I got my Ferro Rod. Stick that in this here. So we got it. That's the new setup there. This actually has a pocket back here, and now that I look at it, I kind of like to have this back pocket. I've had that on other Bino harnesses before. I kind of like that for my documents. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and stick my documents in there. I put my documents in Ziploc bags anyway, so I'm not worried about them getting wet or anything, being external to the pack, so I'll stick them in. There's just a nice kind of flat pouch. And the thing is, I found like this rear pouch in these Bino harnesses, you can't put anything that has any texture to it or is a weird shape because that's gonna be against your chest and it's gonna hurt. So flat things like documents, this little pouch is great for, and that way it's a lot simpler to get into your front pouch. All right, so looking at this, I think this is all good. The only thing that I don't really like is I don't really like where I put that, and the reason being is I just don't want more hanging down here where it can pull and undo that zipper. So actually it looks like there's some little attachment points right here. I'm just gonna go like that, making sure these are all straight. It's the first time I put on this harness. Okay, all right. So like I was saying, like this harness right now, it's light. My primary thing in terms of weight is these Binos. A little piece of ParaCord is like my extra strap on there, but you can obviously use the little built-in ones here. The reason in the past I haven't used these on Bino harnesses, the attachment points that go to the harness, is there are times, and this is a lot of times like when you're in a vehicle or something and you're moving around glass a little bit, there's times where I just don't want my binoculars attached to the harness. It's just easier to not do that. So that's why I just use a little chunk of ParaCord. It just seems simpler to me, but that's personal preference. It actually looks like they've made these with nice little clips. So you could put one of these on there and then you wouldn't have the need for that ParaCord. So however you want to do it, that's personal preference. I'll kind of see where I end up on that. But this is pretty comfortable, and that's the whole Bino setup. So I hope that was useful to you. Again, no critique on this harness or the harness that I removed this stuff from. I really just wanted to make this video so you knew what I keep in my harness and why. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a huge favor and like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. Good luck out there in the woods this spring and fall. I'll talk to you guys later.